capitals.
Addressing the needs of gifted and talented students in mixed ability classes has aroused considerable debate, but little consensus. John Bailey has come to North London to see how two teachers are approaching it.
Everybody jump to the I'm so funky fresh, fresh. Everybody jump to the I'm so funky fresh. That would sound quite nice on top of our boom, cha, cha, boom. You can imagine it, yeah? All right, let's do it.
Daniel Smith is in his 4th year as a music teacher at Capital City Academy in Willesden. He came here on the graduate teacher programme. His love of music and rapport with his students are his great strengths.
You're a musician?
Yeah.
And you're not gigging at the moment?
No. I mean, the way the story goes, obviously, you got the Chinese whispers, but I was a musician in that we were a band held together by the lead singer. He was, I want to be a singer, I want to get signed. And we were all people that love music, the bass, the drums, the trumpet, the keyboard player, who all we went to college together. So we played on his demo circuit, which we were playing quite a lot. So that stopped. Then I had a son as well. So this life took over. I'm trying to make you make a melody to some specific chords. So we're going to still stick with that theme, but now we have a few more rules because we're going to deal with something called a waltz. This is the rhythm for it. As soon as you hear it, you recognize it. You've seen it in films, you've seen it in cartoons. Yeah, simple. Pa, pa. Yeah, you hear the music going along. Pa, 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 pa.
Daniel's teaching a mixed ability Year 10 class. It's the beginning of their GCSE course, and he's explaining some basic concepts.
So, I want you to choose any groove, yeah, any chord progression, go to the keyboard, pa, pa, with your left hand, but with the right hand, only use one note per pa, pa. So, for example, like this. Only use one here. And try and hold it down. There you go. But choose the groove, though. Choose a groove.
At the moment, Daniel is not specifically targeting the more talented students, like Akim and Naomi.
What experiences are these relatively gifted children going to have in this lesson? What might they do or experience that won't happen to the others?
Well, it's a double lesson, so yeah. I would say if it hadn't been a single lesson, they would get that breakthrough feeling that these lot might not reach.
Okay.
That moment of, oh, I've got it. Makes sense, though. You know Roman numerals, yeah? Generally, you know, they'll get the chance to have that kind of relief or enjoyment out of having cracked the puzzle, as it were.
Yeah. Okay.
You know. Yeah. Oops, there's no number 2 on that paper. Do it slower, it's too fast. I'll come back, it's too fast. Right, show me, play a normal triad. It's a normal triad. Yeah.
Most of Daniel's time is taken up helping the majority of students to grasp the basics, like how to play a triad.
Yeah, pa, pa. You should be using your left hand, shouldn't you? Yeah?
What do you think of the idea of some basic skills starters?
Yeah, I mean, the silly thing is they're all there, I've made them, but because it's my fault, it's like programming. Because they're Year 10s, I'm trying to treat them as Year 10s. So little things like the triad, I've got a rotating PowerPoint. The first letter comes up, and they've got about 2 seconds in which to say the other 3 and 5 that are missing. So everything is there, but it's like a program thing. It's like, oh, these Year 10s, so I'm not going to do that. I want them to remember. We've been doing it 3 weeks. Why can't they remember? If they need to remember, look in a folder. But yeah, I could. You reckon that is a waltz?
4 beats in the bar.
Yeah. So in terms of ums and pas, it's going pa 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 pa. Yeah. All right.
Do we ever use any of our children to get stuff quicker to help to work with these?
Yeah, every now and then. Because it's the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We're at a stage where even these guys need to be listening and soaking it in. So, for example, in year 9 is something we do a lot because the work will be at this level. Anyone who's good will finish, and we'll just go, right, go and help someone else. It's like we treat it like a germ, like a virus. So it's like you help someone, they'll help someone, and it just spreads through the class. Obviously, we're at the beginning of the year, so it kind of reaches a stage where we're still breaking in lots of new things. Put your name and date on this sheet, please.
It's the final part of the lesson, and Daniel is asking the students to compose their own waltz by choosing a chord progression.
So before we even look at the sheet, let's imagine this was a chord 6. What would be my 3 notes? Imagine this is a chord 6. What would be my 3 notes?
1, 6, 1, 2.
I can't remember. A, C, E.
Yeah, you shouldn't have shouted out, but yeah. A, C, E, right? Let's see how you go.
But after a few minutes, it's clear that some students are struggling.
Where's A on here?
A is
Down there. Yeah, A, C, E, isn't it?
There are some children in the room who are at full stretch trying to understand how the triads work and how what the first chord and the third chord and the 5th chord is and how to sequence it is. And they're just hanging onto their hats. And I think that for some children here, it's a bit of a blur. And then when you go on to say, choose your groove, fit some chords, fill in the cymbals, put in the melody, it's all too much.
Yeah.
They're sort of, some of these kids are out of the picture here. And as a matter of fact, I think in a mild way, maybe you began to get a bit irritated yourself.
Probably. What chords are these? What are they? What are they? What chords? What groove have you chosen? From here.
I chose my one, this one. The one that we made up last time.
6544, right. So the ticket is not there, so you write it on, convert it so I can just look at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Having to do a lot of mopping up now, aren't you? And it feels to me like it's keeping you away from some of the children who could do a bit more.
Follow the sheet. I can't say anything else on that. Yeah, if you follow the sheet, it's just easy. Yeah?
Follow the sheet. I can't say anything else to you. If you just follow the sheet, it's easy. You see, what I'm thinking about your gifted and talented children, about your more able children in the room, is they didn't get very much of your time. In this lesson, I think there were 2 ways in which they could have been stretched. They could have gone and done some explaining to other students, which would probably not have been appropriate in this lesson because they were taking a lot of new material on themselves. So the other way to stretch them would have been for them to get more of your time and for you to be putting, on the one hand, putting more pressure on them to get finished, and on the other hand, doing more extended questioning with them, checking on their understanding.
At Copeland School in Wembley, mixed ability classes in English are the norm.
As you're going along, see if you can think about the themes to write in here, OK? OK. Here's the read.
John's come to watch Fiona O'Sullivan, a young head of faculty who's only been teaching for 3 years.
What was it like when you first started?
It was tough, I won't lie. It was quite tough at first, especially being quite young, being female. Some of the boys in particular kind of pushed their luck a little bit with regards to behaviour. But I spent, I'd say, the first term working very hard on the behaviour side of things. And then after that, you can think more about the learning that's taking place in the lesson.
Said she wanted to teach us.
Fiona's Year 11 class is studying the classic text To Kill a Mockingbird and its exploration of racism in 1930s America.
We finished reading part 1, so we're just going to find out a little bit more about it by looking at the different characters, themes and events that we've heard about, OK?
Fiona's approach is different from Daniel's. She differentiates by giving higher ability students, like Sophie, Neelam and Richus, more demanding worksheets than the rest of the class.
I like to really stretch them. I ask them open questions, and then once I get an answer to the question, I'll then ask them another one to draw on what they've said. So hopefully they get to the stage where they're really analysing the points they make.
Richards, I'm going to ask you a question now about Mrs. Dubose. Nora said that she's quite brave. Did we always think she was brave, or do you think that's something that developed later on?
It developed after her death.
Good. And through which character did we find out more about Mrs. Dubose?
Atticus.
OK, can you remember anything that he told us?
He said that she wanted to die with her senses about her.
Good, well done. So that shows true bravery, well done.
So the gifted and talented they're getting open questions, and they're getting some question stringing.
That's right.
So I answer a question and you'll say, tell me a bit more.
That's right.
Or in what other circumstance might that happen? So I'm being pulled along that way.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you in group 1, I'd like you to put the character cards in this column, then match the descriptions to the characters, and finally match the themes to the appropriate characters and descriptions.
In this theme card activity, the majority of the class is in Group 1. The more able students, in Group 2, have to do a little extra.
Those of you in group 2 don't get the theme cards. You think of the themes that you think can be linked to the characters and then write them in the last column. OK.
That's Atticus. That's Atticus. So put Atticus there. And Mrs. Dubose's inspiration as well.
You and just be quiet so we can feedback.
It's like traditional like. I think this one is.
Although the higher ability students are doing more challenging work, John feels Fiona could adopt a more radical approach.
Traditional like.
If we took them out into a withdrawal room and you wanted to really engage them and really give them a good rinsing, what sort of things might we do with them in a circumstance like that?
Perhaps the group interaction may be slightly more dynamic because they would all be, you'd assume, on the same level, and they would be demanding answers from each other, where normally in a class I would ask the follow-up questions.
I've got one too, which is we might make the extension work, move from it being to more of the same to being something, there's a frightening character in the book. If you wanted to portray them as a character in The Simpsons, what devices might you use?
Yeah.
So that you're banging them on the side of the head and saying, step right back and get into the whole authorial and imaginative world and see what you do with it.
So they were people, but they lived like animals. Who's it talking about? The Ewells. Good, well done. Think of the choice of the word animals, OK? What does that depict? What vision of them do we get? OK?
Can we think of any ways whereby we could accelerate that group within the context of a classroom?
Perhaps they would take, instead of just doing a different task or answering questions in a more analytical way, perhaps they would take more of a lead role in some of the activities. So perhaps if I was having mixed ability groupings within the mixed ability class, perhaps the gifted and talented pupils could take on a role at a higher level which demanded more of them.
Great. And I would also like to see that advanced group working separately on occasion and being put under pressure in several ways. One is to have a quite elaborate task to do that might involve them making a big sideways jump, getting up into that synthesizing and speculative kind of framework.
Right.
And see them evaluating each other's work in the course of doing that and see how much we can get out of them.
It's a month later, and John is returning to see if the two teachers are now pushing their more able students harder. He starts with Fiona.
Imagine you are being interviewed by the Macomb Tribune, the newspaper.
Fiona has changed her approach, and she's put the more able students in a separate group. Whilst the majority work on questions to ask later in the lesson, the gifted and talented get into character.
You are all the different people in the community. You're very diverse. Imagine you've all been interviewed, and in the article, the journalist has written down quotes that you've said. You're going to write the quotes for your character, about 2, on the A3 paper in quite large writing with the pens provided. OK? And you've got 10 minutes.
I'm fine. Who are you?
That's good.
Well, you're obviously gutted. You just lost the court case. And you thought Tom was
What does it?
There's not really anything to say, is there?
You tried your best.
You tried your best because he doesn't say anything at the end of the case. He just walks away.
It demanded more thinking of them. I feel it really stretched them because it required them to sit down, think about their character and how their character could be represented in a small soundbite.
I never give an opinion, the whole book.
So they've done something that on the one hand has got some qualitative differences from what the rest of the form are doing. But the neat trick, from my point of view, at least I was very impressed by it, is it's going to be a task that's complementary to what the rest of the class are doing.
Yeah.
Because at the end they're going to be united with the activity at the end.
Before that final activity, there's another task where the class moves around, so one of the more able students is in each mixed ability group.
In your groups, you will produce one full paragraph on their character and how their character acts during and after the court case.
Does she worry when the kids go missing though?
Yeah, she does. She goes to court, she stops the court case. She goes into court with a note and she hands it to Atticus, and they basically stop the case for a minute while Atticus tells Judge Taylor, oh, my kids are missing and I think I'm going to have to go.
Her position in the house here is to be a cook.
She's employed to be a cook.
But she cares about the kids more than
She cares about the kids.
There was a gifted and talented pupil in each of the groups, and they were taking a lead role.
She thought it was patronising her.
Rounding off the last sentence, please, Year 11.
With the use of words.
In that middle activity, if I'm verbal and social and imaginative, I'm going to like that a lot. So that group at the front desk got on with it really well.
Yeah.
I noticed 1 or 2 other trios or pairings were a bit slower. What's your feeling about that?
I think it's completely to do with the learning styles. In each lesson, I try to provide a variety of activities to cater to these learning styles. So there will be times within a lesson where the activity does not demand a pupil's favourite learning style, and therefore they won't succeed as well as the other kids. I do think that most of the groups worked well in terms of communication, and again, that's something where I wanted to give the gifted and talented pupils more control. It was made clear to them that they were responsible for bringing the group together and for drawing information out of their peers.
All right, can everyone please get their folders? Thank you very much. Okay, if you turn to your sheet with the clefs on it, you're going to need that out on the table for most of the lesson. This one right here with the clefs. Yeah, you need that out for the most of the lesson.
Daniel has also changed the way he teaches. He's spending more time on drilling and reinforcing the basics, so they're clear to the whole class. In this lesson, he's moved on from the waltz to the minuet.
So just out of interest, let's see whose brain is switched on. Let's assume we are in the key of C and we're using a C chord. Somebody tell us what the notes would be for that bass line. 1, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, if it was in C.
C, G, E, G, E, G.
Right. I've been trying to be a bit more harder on them. Like, remember we had that discussion about getting the folders out and so on and so forth. So instead of me walking around, it's like, look, the information's there. So I've been trying to make it more independent. This time you will not be choosing your groove. I have chosen specific chords for you to use today. So when you're working together and helping each other, you're not saying, well, what's your chord, what's your chord? You've all got the same chords, so you can help each other a bit more easier today. So I've given you a set chord sequence to use.
Daniel's been asking the students to work in pairs, so the talented ones can help the others to understand better what he's teaching.
Has this given you more time, more room to work with the talented students?
Yes and no. The thing I did make a point of doing was the better ones helping. So that did actually happen on 2 occasions, because it was mainly catching up and reinforcing, because they had finished. Instead of going for the stretching option, I went for the helping option. So I just said, look, right, you know it, explain it to them, and we just kind of helped a few more people.
So that's one of the things they can do. They can cement their skills by getting hold of other people who haven't, and teaching it.
What's AO then? It's like this.
But John feels Daniel could be putting more pressure on the higher ability students and using them more effectively as a resource for the whole class.
So I need in the morning. First of all, down on the sheet.
I sat down with one pupil, and it was getting towards the end of the lesson. They were a bit tired, but they were going through those figures, and I said, I bet if I play the chord bong, 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 you can't play all the different figures one after the other. And actually they could. Diddle, 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 diddle. And it made me think of that idea of challenges. Bet you can't do this.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, I done it!
I was very interested in those girls because they'd sort of cracked it. And they were so excited by the fact that they cracked it. They started yattering to each other and to people around them. And I thought, ah, ha, ha, there could be one team going around explaining how you transpose a tune from one key to another.
Yeah.
There could be another team going around doing scale drills. They could either be going around and checking in their own right, or they could be reporting back to you about who's got it and who hasn't got it. And they could be talking to you about the expositions that they're giving.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm happily would do that when I want, use them to bring up the others for a little while without feeling that I should be pushing them more. I have no guilt for keeping them there for a little while to help the rest come up, and then I can show them some more at other stages, you know what I mean? So I would gladly do that, actually.
Right, boys and girls, welcome to today's chat show. In front of us, we've managed to get together a diverse group of people from Maycomb Society. We're going to ask them questions. These questions will allow us, by magic powers, to get into their inner thoughts.
Back in Fiona's class, it's time for the final activity, where her more able students are in the hot seat.
Mrs. Merriweather, why do you assume black people are bad?
I just think they're all sulky darkies, and I don't like talking to them. They just get on my nerves. I can't stand black people.
Mayella, what did you think about Atticus Finch questioning your father?
He was very demanding and offensive, and I don't think he should have been calling me mum because he was mocking me, and there was no need for that.
Mayella, why is it you think Atticus was mocking you? Do you not think he was just being polite and respectful?
No, not really, because no one has shown me any respect in my life, so I wouldn't know what respect is.
Okay. There were two very separate groups in the lesson. We had the gifted and talented pupils and then the main class. However, I do strongly feel that the other pupils who weren't necessarily gifted and talented also enrich the gifted and talented by their own use of questioning. And I do think we need to use the pupils as a resource so they can learn from each other. Nathan, who's your question for?
Scout.
Okay, Scout.
Did you understand clearly what was going on in the interview, and did you receive help from anyone?
Thank you.
Yeah, I understood everything. I'm almost 9 years old, but I did have to ask Jem some stuff, but I still understood everything.
Okay, thank you. Pierre?
Tom Robinson, do you think that a pill will work out for you?
Not really. It might just be like the same thing again. It's racism.
And what are your thoughts towards Atticus at this stage in your life, Tom?
I'm very thankful that he tried his best, but we're destined to fail anyway, so.
In that hot seating activity at the end, That really brought everything to life, didn't it?
Yeah.
I felt a lot of them began to emote.
Yeah.
I began to feel the characters.
They were very enthusiastic.
Yes, there were a few lump in the throat moments there, weren't there?
Do you really think Tom Robinson is innocent, or do you really think he's guilty and you're just defending him to get on the good side of the black people?
Ooh, interesting. Different interpretation there.
Nah, he's not guilty. He's not gay. Because knowing what's going on these days, you should...
You're obviously very upset about it, so let's wrap it up there. Well done to all of you. Little round of applause, please. Okay.
What have you learned from this? What's it changed about you as a teacher?
I was always very wary of withdrawing pupils. I do feel that mixed ability groupings give the best results. I still feel that, but I also think that within a lesson, separate activities can be designed, perhaps in a starter or a plenary, just to give the gifted and talented pupils the opportunity to work on their own together so that they can be stretched more without being held back.
Having watched two different teachers, John has found himself making similar suggestions. Think more strategically. Design activities so the more able students can work with the majority, and both groups can benefit each other.
What I've learned from this is that differentiation requires some structural work, doesn't it? It requires
definitely
the structure in the lesson design. Some of the tasks given out will be different. Some of the groupings will be different. And if that structure isn't in there, it's very difficult to differentiate.